Hey guys, what's up? This is Insanity. Got a gameplay of Black Ops 2 on PC. Playing Domination with the SMR assault rifle, having been unsatisfied with the semi-autos in Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. And man, what a world difference. They are a complete godsend, and I'm glad the M1 Garand and M1A1 Carbine in World War II are continuing the trend of good semi-auto rifles. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is Thor Ragnarok. Having seen it on opening day, after not catching Guardians Volume 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming on opening day. In short, it's a good movie that is a lot of fun, but is held back from greatness by the first two entries in the Thor movie franchise being lesser entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You might get fans of Thor 1 in the same manner you get fans of Captain America the First Avenger. There are some defenders for the first entries of Thor and Captain America, despite not being considered standouts in the same way Iron Man 1 was for Iron Man. But practically everyone considers the Dark World a lackluster entry, and the overall perception of the Thor franchise being weak means that Thor Ragnarok being third time's the charm can't help but be more of it's a little too late. The overall world of Thor of Asgard, the supporting cast around him, and the Nine Realms has not been fully developed. In Thor 1, Thor gets banished to Earth to learn humility, so it makes sense that not much time is spent in Thor's particular homeworld. In Thor 2, despite Thor's world having additional screen time, there's still a lot of scenes on Earth, and Asgard is still mostly sidetracked. This is a huge problem when it comes to Thor Ragnarok. You get additional developments of Asgard in Ragnarok, namely that it was a place built on blood and conquest developments before Odin had a change of heart and decided to become benevolent. He has a daughter that no one knows about because he locked her away, which means her existence is completely out of left field, not only to the audience but to Thor and Loki. And one of the main plot points is the actual Ragnarok, which is obviously the apocalypse, and it threatens to destroy all of Asgard. These are really interesting and juicy elements that would have had a greater impact if Thor's world and its inhabitants were fully developed in the previous Thor movies. Much of the first part of Ragnarok is essentially wrapping up plot points from Dark World very quickly. Odin's death doesn't have enough impact since it's just an excuse to move the plot along. And when Hela bursts onto the scene and kills off a bunch of nameless warriors, in addition to three of Thor's closest friends, who he practically doesn't bring up throughout the film in spite of that, we practically are more in awe of Hela being a badass instead of caring about any of the people she kills. It's fun to see her chew the scenery and play off her Scourge, a guy who joins her just to save his own skin, but was mostly timid throughout. But it's probably safe to say that the parts people actually give more of a damn about or find the most interesting are the stuff on Sakaar. It's the part where the film clearly has focused a lot of its energy and imagination on. You have scenes stealing Jeff Goldblum, the Hulk, who is more of a character and is the first live-action incarnation, to actually be more in line with his incarnations from other media, being able to talk and having a pouty child-type behavior while still retaining a degree of intelligence. A lot of interesting interactions not only between the star players of the movie, but even within the supporting cast within that world. The comedy, a point of contention for some, is very fitting for this section of the movie. And if not that, surely the much advertised Thor vs. Hulk fight in trailers and other promotional material is enough reason for people to think more fondly of the stuff on Sakaar than on Asgard. It's impossible to cut out the stuff from Asgard completely, since a Ragnarok in the title means that the movie can't spend its entire time in Sakaar. But for the Asgard side of things, it's a shame that Thor Ragnarok was handicapped from the start by the two previous entries. They picked a director whose forte is comedy and just so happens to have Guardians of the Galaxy as his favorite Marvel movie, on top of the actor for Thor also wanting something more akin to Guardians of the Galaxy. Indeed, Thor Ragnarok sometimes feels a bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, which isn't a knock on it, as Ragnarok at least feels like a shot in the arm for a Thor franchise, and it has enough of its own flavor to be different. If only Thor's side of things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are more developed, then Ragnarok would be truly great. There's still plenty of good stuff to like about Ragnarok. Thor really gets to cut loose and feel like the god he's supposed to be, with the fights he gets into emphasizing his durability, stamina, and power. The movie also manages to give him a bit of a Captain America underdog feel. Even at his weakest, he's still strong and undeniably badass, and relies a lot on his skill when he's without his hammer. Him getting a power-up during the final battle with Led Zeppelin's Immigrant song playing was a joyous moment. Hulk, as mentioned previously, is much more of a character. The two Avengers movies have continually emphasized that Banner and Hulk are two separate individuals. But Hulk being able to speak actual dialogue in Ragnarok helps hammer that point home. Pun intended. He has his own wants and needs and is no longer a simple green rage monster. He gets pouty, amused, sad, and disappointed in Ragnarok, and actually expresses it, as opposed to the previous movies or appearances where he mostly says only one or two lines and much of his behavior and thoughts and desires are communicated through body language instead. All future movies will surely have other characters interacting with the Hulk in a far more interesting way, now that these developments have taken place and shaped Hulk into a real character. The action is great, there's plenty of it spaced out accordingly, and they're all pretty well developed. Even the brief fights between people like Valkyrie and Loki are still pretty decent. But highlights include Thor's introductory battle against Thor, Thor versus Hulk, obviously, and a final battle against Hela, where I really felt the Captain America underdogishness of Thor when it's obvious that Hela can't be punched away. One of the things I did like about the Dark World was seeing Thor using his head to strategize in a manner befitting that of a king. That continues into here, where he decides that Ragnarok must happen in order to stop Hela. His ascension to the throne, after having decided he wasn't fit initially, then deciding he's better off fighting threats than being a king, actually show a degree of character growth that's surprisingly subtle but effective. In fact, he's probably the core Avenger of the big three who's had development that actually stuck. Tony has a ton of development, but usually, sometimes it ends up getting reset. Steve is largely the same character but with changing viewpoints, but that's not a negative when you're Captain America, who's the paragon of virtue. Thor goes from hot-headed warrior to humble man to developing enough wisdom to be a king. Of course, when your only opposition to throne ascension is Loki, there is probably no other choice. But the development of Thor's character seemed to follow a natural enough progression that would lead to him becoming a king. Lastly, the music score is pretty good. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been accused of having bland scores or forgettable stuff, and while I don't agree, I do believe that the music scores are usually background noise, and it takes listening to them in isolation for the movie to actually remember the music in most cases. The music for the Sakaar portion is pretty good. There's a recurring motif that's triumphant and heroic, and then there's a great use of the Thor 1 theme for when Thor takes the throne at the end of the movie. Lastly, everyone, well, mostly everyone, just had a blast making this movie, and it shows on screen. For all of its flaws, I give Thor Ragnarok about an 8 out of 10. That's the gameplay and commentary. Hope you enjoyed it, and Insanity is out.
Adios, amigo. Rest in peace.